Chapter 1. Understanding Procrastination, the Hidden Psychology Behind Delay. Procrastination isn't just about being lazy or lacking willpower. It's a complex psychological phenomenon that affects nearly everyone at some point in their lives. Understanding the true nature of procrastination is the first step toward conquering it. What procrastination really is. Procrastination is the act of voluntarily delaying or postponing tasks, despite knowing that this delay may lead to negative consequences. It's not simply poor time management or laziness. It's an active process where we choose to do something else instead of the task we know we should be doing. Research shows that procrastination is fundamentally about emotion regulation, not time management. When we procrastinate, we're trying to avoid the negative emotions associated with a task, such as anxiety, boredom, frustration, or fear of failure. The procrastination paradox. Here's the cruel irony. While procrastination provides temporary relief from negative emotions, it ultimately creates more stress, anxiety, and negative feelings. We end up in a cycle where the very thing we're trying to avoid, negative emotions, becomes amplified. This creates what psychologists call the procrastination paradox. We delay tasks to feel better in the moment, but this delay makes us feel worse in the long run, leading to more procrastination. The neuroscience behind procrastination. Your brain plays a significant role in procrastination. The limbic system, which controls emotions and seeks immediate gratification, often overrides the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for planning and decision-making. When faced with a task that triggers negative emotions, your limbic system activates your fight-or-flight response. Since you can't literally run away from a work project or academic assignment, your brain chooses the next best thing. Avoidance through procrastination. Types of procrastinators. Not all procrastination looks the same. Researchers have identified several types. The perfectionist delays starting because they fear their work won't meet impossibly high standards. They'd rather not try than risk producing something imperfect. The dreamer has great ideas, but struggles with the practical steps needed to implement them. They get stuck in the planning phase and never move to action. The worrier becomes paralyzed by fear of failure or judgment. They spend more time worrying about potential problems than actually working on solutions. The crisis maker thrives on the adrenaline rush of last-minute work. They believe they work better under pressure and deliberately delay tasks to create urgency. The overdoer takes on too many commitments and uses busy work to avoid important but challenging tasks. The hidden costs of procrastination. Procrastination affects more than just productivity. It impacts physical health. Chronic procrastination is linked to higher stress levels, weakened immune systems, and sleep problems. Mental health. Increased anxiety, depression, and feelings of guilt and shame. Relationships. Missed deadlines and broken promises can strain personal and professional relationships. Career growth. Delayed projects and missed opportunities can limit professional advancement. Self-esteem. Repeated cycles of procrastination and regret erode confidence and self-worth. Breaking the stigma. One of the biggest barriers to overcoming procrastination is the shame and self-judgment that often accompanies it. Many people view procrastination as a character flaw or moral failing, leading to harsh self-criticism that only makes the problem worse. Understanding that procrastination is a common human experience, not a personal defect, is crucial for developing compassion toward yourself and creating the psychological safety needed for change. Moving forward. Recognizing procrastination as an emotional regulation strategy rather than a time management problem opens the door to more effective solutions. Instead of simply trying to force yourself to work harder, you can address the underlying emotions and thoughts that drive procrastination. In the next article, we'll explore how to identify your personal procrastination triggers and patterns. By understanding what specifically causes you to procrastinate, you'll be better equipped to develop targeted strategies for change. Remember, procrastination is a habit, not a permanent personality trait. With understanding and the right approaches, it can be overcome. Chapter 2. Identifying your procrastination patterns. Know your enemy. Now that you understand what procrastination really is, the next crucial step is recognizing your personal procrastination patterns. Just as a doctor needs to diagnose a condition before treating it, you need to identify your specific triggers and behaviors to develop an effective strategy for change. The power of self-awareness. Self-awareness is your most powerful tool in the fight against procrastination. Most people procrastinate automatically, without conscious thought about why they're doing it or what patterns drive their behavior. By bringing these unconscious patterns into the light, you can begin to interrupt and change them. Common procrastination triggers. Understanding what triggers your procrastination is essential. Here are the most common triggers to watch for. Task characteristics. Tasks that seem overwhelming or too complex, boring or tedious activities, projects without clear deadlines, work that feels meaningless or pointless, tasks where the outcome is uncertain. Emotional triggers. Fear of failure or making mistakes, fear of success and increased expectations, perfectionism and fear of imperfection, feeling overwhelmed or stressed, lack of confidence or self-doubt, resentment about having to do the task. Environmental triggers. Distracting environments, lack of necessary resources or information, interruptions from others, uncomfortable physical spaces, technology and social media temptations. Internal state triggers. Fatigue or low energy, hunger or physical discomfort, mood states like depression or anxiety, feeling rushed or time pressure, decision fatigue from too many choices. The procrastination tracking exercise. To identify your patterns, try this tracking exercise for 1 week. Create a procrastination log with these columns. Date and time of procrastination, task you were avoiding, what you did instead, how you were feeling before procrastinating, thoughts going through your mind, environmental factors present, how you felt afterward. Record every instance of procrastination, no matter how small. Even delaying a simple email for an hour counts. Recognizing your procrastination behaviors. Procrastination often disguises itself as productive activity. Watch for these common avoidance behaviors. Digital distractions, compulsive social media checking, endless web browsing or research, organizing digital files unnecessarily, playing games or watching videos. Pseudo-productive activities, over-organizing your workspace, making elaborate plans without executing, doing less important tasks first, excessive preparation without action. Physical avoidance, suddenly feeling hungry or thirsty, deciding you need to clean or organize, taking unnecessary breaks or naps, running errands that could wait. Mental escape, daydreaming or fantasizing, overthinking and analysis paralysis, creating mental scenarios of failure, ruminating about past mistakes. Your personal procrastination profile. After tracking your patterns, look for themes in your data. Most people have 2 to 3 primary triggers and 1 to 2 dominant avoidance behaviors. Your personal profile might look something like, I primarily procrastinate when tasks feel overwhelming or when I'm worried about doing them perfectly. My main avoidance behavior is getting lost in social media or suddenly deciding to clean my workspace. This usually happens in the afternoon when my energy is lower. The emotional patterns behind procrastination. Pay special attention to the emotions that precede your procrastination. Common emotional patterns include the anxiety spiral. Feeling anxious about a task leads to avoidance, which increases anxiety, creating a vicious cycle. The perfectionism trap. Setting impossibly high standards leads to fear of not meeting them, resulting in avoidance. The overwhelmed shutdown. When tasks feel too big or complex, the mind essentially shuts down and seeks escape. The resentment response. Feeling forced to do something you don't want to do triggers rebellious procrastination. The confidence crisis. Doubting your ability to complete a task successfully leads to avoidance to protect self-esteem. Time and energy patterns. Notice when you're most likely to procrastinate. What time of day does it happen most often? Are you more prone when tired, hungry, or stressed? Do certain days of the week show more procrastination? How does your environment affect your tendency to delay? Understanding your energy rhythms and optimal working conditions will help you structure your day to minimize procrastination triggers. The procrastination chain reaction. Often, procrastination creates a chain reaction. Missing one deadline leads to stress, which makes you more likely to procrastinate on the next task, which creates more stress, and so on. Identifying where these chains typically start can help you intervene early. Questions for deeper reflection. As you analyze your patterns, consider these questions. What messages about productivity and success did you learn growing up? How do you typically handle stress and difficult emotions? What are your core fears related to work and performance? How does procrastination serve you? What positive outcomes do you get from it? What would change in your life if you no longer procrastinated? Moving beyond judgment. As you identify your patterns, practice observing without judging. The goal isn't to criticize yourself, but to gather information. Treating yourself with curiosity and compassion creates the psychological safety necessary for change. Preparing for change. With a clear understanding of your procrastination patterns, you're ready for the next phase, understanding the deeper psychological roots that drive these behaviors. In our next article, we'll explore the fears, beliefs, and emotional patterns that fuel procrastination, giving you insight into not just what you do, but why you do it. Remember, awareness is the first step to freedom. By clearly seeing your patterns, you've already begun the process of changing them. Chapter 3. The Root Causes. Understanding why we procrastinate. Having identified your procrastination patterns, you might be wondering, why do these patterns exist in the first place? Understanding the deeper psychological roots of procrastination is crucial, because surface-level solutions rarely create lasting change. When we address the underlying causes, we can finally break free from the cycle of delay and avoidance. The fear-based foundation of procrastination. At its core, most procrastination stems from fear. These fears often operate below our conscious awareness, making them particularly powerful in driving our behavior. The most common underlying fears include fear of failure. This is perhaps the most common root cause of procrastination. If you never fully try, you can always tell yourself and others that you could have succeeded if you had really applied yourself. Procrastination becomes a protective mechanism that preserves your sense of potential while avoiding the risk of discovering your limitations. Fear of success. Paradoxically, some people procrastinate because they're afraid of succeeding. Success can bring unwanted attention, increased expectations, more responsibility, or changes to relationships. Sometimes the familiar struggle feels safer than unknown success. Fear of judgment. The terror of being criticized, rejected, or found inadequate can be paralyzing. This fear often stems from early experiences of harsh criticism or perfectionist environments where mistakes were heavily penalized. Fear of imperfection. Perfectionism and procrastination are intimate partners. When your standards are impossibly high, any attempt feels doomed to fall short. It becomes easier to avoid trying than to face the reality of producing imperfect work. Fear of loss of control. Some people procrastinate as a way to maintain a sense of control. By choosing when and how to do something, even if that choice is delay, they feel they're exercising autonomy in situations where they otherwise feel powerless. Learned helplessness and procrastination. Sometimes procrastination develops from experiences of learned helplessness, repeated situations where your efforts didn't lead to desired outcomes. Over time, this can create a mindset of why bother trying that manifests as chronic procrastination. This often happens when past efforts were consistently criticized or dismissed, you faced tasks that were genuinely beyond your developmental capacity, systems or environments were chaotic and unpredictable, rewards and punishments seemed arbitrary or unfair. The role of childhood experiences. Many procrastination patterns have roots in childhood experiences. Authoritarian parenting. Children who grew up with overly controlling parents sometimes develop procrastination as a form of passive resistance. It becomes a way to assert independence and control. Perfectionist environments. Growing up in environments where mistakes weren't tolerated can create a lifelong fear of imperfection that manifests as procrastination. Inconsistent expectations. When expectations were unclear or constantly changing, children learned that it's safer to avoid action than risk getting it wrong. Overscheduling. Children who were overscheduled and never learned to self-regulate often struggle with procrastination as adults because they never developed internal motivation systems. Rescue patterns. If parents consistently rescued children from the consequences of procrastination, the child never learned to associate delay with real negative outcomes. Cognitive distortions that fuel procrastination. Our thinking patterns play a huge role in procrastination. Common cognitive distortions include all or nothing thinking. If I can't do it perfectly, there's no point in doing it at all. Catastrophizing. If I fail at this, it will be a complete disaster, and everyone will think I'm incompetent. Mind reading. I know my boss will hate whatever I produce, so why bother trying? Fortune telling. I'm going to fail anyway, so there's no point in starting. Emotional reasoning. I feel overwhelmed, so this task must be impossible. Should statements. I should be able to do this easily, or I shouldn't need help with this. The dopamine connection. Procrastination also has a neurochemical component. Our brains are wired to seek immediate rewards, dopamine hits over delayed gratification. Modern technology has exacerbated this tendency by providing instant sources of dopamine through social media, games, and entertainment. When faced with a challenging task that won't provide immediate reward, our brains naturally gravitate toward activities that will give us that quick dopamine fix. Over time, this can rewire our neural pathways to prefer immediate gratification over long-term goals. Attention and executive function issues. For some people, procrastination is related to underlying attention difficulties or executive function challenges. This might include difficulty with working memory, problems with task initiation, challenges with time estimation, trouble prioritizing and organizing, difficulty sustaining attention on less stimulating tasks. If you suspect this might be a factor, consider consulting with a healthcare professional who can assess for conditions like ADHD. The secondary gains of procrastination. Sometimes we procrastinate because it serves us in ways we don't consciously recognize. These secondary gains might include getting others to lower their expectations of us, avoiding responsibilities we don't actually want, creating drama and excitement in our lives, getting attention and sympathy from others, maintaining a sense of rebellion or independence, avoiding the anxiety of having nothing urgent to do. Trauma and procrastination. For some individuals, procrastination is connected to trauma responses. Trauma can affect our ability to plan for the future, regulate emotions, and feel safe taking action. If you suspect trauma might be influencing your procrastination, working with a qualified therapist can be extremely helpful. Cultural and social influences. The culture we live in also shapes our relationship with procrastination. Cultures that emphasize individual achievement may create more performance anxiety. Social media creates constant comparison opportunities. The modern pace of life can feel overwhelming. Information overload can lead to decision paralysis. The gig economy and uncertain job markets increase anxiety about performance. The shame spiral. One of the most destructive aspects of chronic procrastination is the shame it generates. Shame tells us we're fundamentally flawed, which makes change feel impossible. This creates a vicious cycle. Procrastination, poor results, shame, more procrastination. Breaking this cycle requires developing self-compassion and understanding that procrastination is a behavior, not an identity. Questions for self-exploration. To understand your own root causes, consider these questions. What were you taught about mistakes and failure as a child? How did your family handle stress and difficult tasks? What are your earliest memories of procrastination? What fears come up when you think about completing important tasks? How do you typically cope with difficult emotions? What would happen if you succeeded beyond your current expectations? What beliefs do you hold about your own capabilities? The path forward. Understanding your root causes isn't about dwelling in the past or making excuses. It's about developing compassion for yourself and recognizing that your procrastination patterns developed for reasons. They were attempts to protect yourself from real or perceived threats. With this understanding, you can begin to address procrastination at its source, rather than just managing symptoms. In our next article, we'll explore practical, evidence-based strategies for overcoming procrastination, building on the self-awareness you've developed. Remember, your procrastination patterns developed over years and won't disappear overnight. But with patience, understanding, and the right strategies, they can be transformed. Chapter 4. Practical Strategies to Overcome Procrastination. Armed with understanding of what procrastination is, your personal patterns, and the root causes driving your behavior, you're ready to implement concrete strategies for change. This article provides evidence-based techniques that address both the emotional and practical aspects of procrastination. The foundation, self-compassion. Before diving into specific techniques, establish a foundation of self-compassion. Research shows that self-criticism actually increases procrastination, while self-compassion creates the psychological safety needed for behavior change. When you notice procrastination, acknowledge it without judgment. I notice I'm procrastinating right now. Recognize it's a common human experience. Many people struggle with this. Offer yourself kindness. This is a difficult moment, and it's okay to feel this way. Strategy 1. The 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. This prevents small tasks from accumulating and becoming overwhelming. For larger tasks, commit to working on them for just 2 minutes. Often, starting is the hardest part, and you'll find yourself continuing beyond the 2-minute mark. Strategy 2. Task decomposition. Break overwhelming tasks into smaller, specific steps. Instead of write report, try. Research 3 key sources. Create outline with main points. Write introduction paragraph. Draft first section. Review and edit first section. Each small step feels manageable and provides a sense of accomplishment that motivates continued progress. Strategy 3. The Pomodoro Technique. Work in focused 25-minute intervals, followed by 5-minute breaks. After 4 intervals, take a longer 15 to 30-minute break. This technique works because it makes work feel finite and manageable. Breaks prevent mental fatigue. The timer creates gentle accountability. It helps you track your actual productivity. Strategy 4. Implementation intentions. Create specific if-then plans for procrastination triggers. For example, if I feel overwhelmed by a project, then I will write down 3 specific next steps. If I find myself scrolling social media, then I will put my phone in another room and work for 15 minutes. If I start thinking this has to be perfect, then I will remind myself that done is better than perfect. Strategy 5. Environment design. Structure your environment to make productive behavior easier and procrastination harder. Remove temptations. Use website blockers during work time. Put your phone in another room. Clear your workspace of distractions. Create a dedicated work area. Add friction to distracting activities. Log out of social media accounts. Put recreational books, games, and harder-to-reach places. Remove apps from your phone's home screen. Turn off all notifications during work time. Make good choices easier. Prepare your workspace the night before. Keep necessary supplies easily accessible. Have water and healthy snacks available. Set up visual reminders of your goals. Strategy 6. The forgiveness approach. When you procrastinate, practice immediate self-forgiveness. Research by Dr. Michael Wohl found that students who forgave themselves for procrastinating on their first exam were less likely to procrastinate on subsequent exams. The process. 1. Acknowledge what happened without minimizing or excusing. 2. Accept responsibility without harsh self-judgment. 3. Commit to doing better next time. 4. Take immediate action, even if small. Strategy 7. Temptation bundling. Pair tasks you need to do with activities you enjoy. For example, listen to favorite music only while doing household chores. Watch a specific show only while exercising. Have a special coffee only when working on difficult projects. This creates positive associations with previously avoided tasks. Strategy 8. The next smallest step. When you feel stuck, ask, what's the smallest possible step I could take right now? This might be opening the relevant document, reading 1 paragraph, writing 1 sentence, making 1 phone call, organizing 1 file. Focus only on that single step, not the entire project. Strategy 9. Accountability systems. Create external accountability to overcome internal resistance. Work alongside others, body doubling. Share your goals with a trusted friend. Join or create a work group. Use apps that track your progress. Schedule regular check-ins with a mentor or coach. Strategy 10. Energy management. Align your most challenging tasks with your peak energy times. Track your energy levels throughout the day for a week. Schedule important work during your natural peak times. Use low energy periods for routine or less demanding tasks. Take breaks before you feel exhausted. Maintain regular sleep, exercise, and eating schedules. Strategy 11. The good enough mindset. Combat perfectionism by deliberately aiming for good enough on certain tasks. This doesn't mean lowering standards across the board, but recognizing that not everything needs to be perfect. Ask yourself, what's the minimum viable version of this task? What would 80% effort look like? How much time is this task really worth? Strategy 12. Emotional regulation techniques. Since procrastination is often about avoiding negative emotions, develop healthier ways to cope. Mindfulness. Notice emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Practice observing thoughts and feelings without immediately acting on them. Progressive muscle relaxation. Systematically tense and release muscle groups to reduce physical tension associated with anxiety. Breathing exercises. Use deep breathing to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and reduce stress. Emotional labeling. Simply naming your emotions. I'm feeling anxious about this presentation, can reduce their intensity. Strategy 13. Reward systems. Create meaningful rewards for completing tasks, small rewards for daily accomplishments, medium rewards for weekly goals, larger rewards for major milestones. Make rewards contingent on effort, not just results. Choose rewards that align with your values and don't undermine your goals. Strategy 14. The minimum effective dose. Find the smallest amount of work that creates meaningful progress. This might be writing for 15 minutes daily instead of trying to write for hours, exercising for 10 minutes instead of planning elaborate workout routines, reading 5 pages instead of trying to finish entire books quickly. Consistency beats intensity for building long-term habits. Strategy 15. Cognitive restructuring. Challenge the thoughts that fuel procrastination. Catastrophic thinking. What's the worst that could realistically happen? All or nothing thinking. What would 70% success look like? Mind reading. What evidence do I have for this belief? Perfectionism. What would I tell a good friend in this situation? Creating your personal strategy toolkit. Not every strategy will work for every person or situation. Experiment with different approaches and create your personalized toolkit. 1. Choose 3 to 4 strategies that resonate most with you. 2. Try each strategy for at least a week. 3. Notice which ones feel natural and effective. 4. Adapt strategies to fit your lifestyle and preferences. 5. Have backup strategies for different situations. Implementation tips. Start small. Don't try to implement every strategy at once. Choose 1 or 2 and master them before adding others. Be patient. Behavior change takes time. Expect setbacks and treat them as learning opportunities. Track progress. Keep a simple log of what strategies you try and how well they work. Adjust as needed. What works in one life phase or situation might not work in another. Stay flexible. Moving forward. These strategies provide a comprehensive toolkit for overcoming procrastination, but knowing what to do and actually doing it are different things. In our final article, we'll focus on creating sustainable change by building new habits and maintaining motivation over time. Remember, overcoming procrastination isn't about willpower. It's about creating systems and environments that make productive behavior easier and more automatic than avoidance. Chapter 5. Building lasting change, from procrastinator to productive. You now have a deep understanding of procrastination and a toolkit of strategies to combat it. But knowledge and techniques alone aren't enough. The real challenge lies in creating lasting change. This final article focuses on how to transform from someone who struggles with procrastination into someone who takes consistent, productive action. Understanding the change process. Lasting change happens in stages, and understanding these stages helps you maintain realistic expectations and stay motivated. Stage 1. Awareness. You've completed this. Understanding what procrastination really is. Recognizing your personal patterns. Identifying root causes. Stage 2. Preparation. You're here now. Developing strategies and tools. Creating supportive environments. Building motivation for change. Stage 3. Action. Implementing new behaviors. Practicing new responses to triggers. Building new neural pathways through repetition. Stage 4. Maintenance. Making new behaviors automatic. Handling setbacks without giving up. Continuing to grow and adapt. Stage 5. Integration. New behaviors become natural and effortless. identity shifts from procrastinator to person who takes action, helping others who struggle with similar issues. The habit loop, your blueprint for change. Every habit follows a simple loop: cue, routine, reward. To change procrastination habits, you need to interrupt this loop. Identify your cues: environmental triggers, messy desk, distracting location; emotional states, anxiety, boredom, overwhelm; time-based patterns, after lunch, Sunday evenings; social situations, certain people or meetings. Replace the routine. Instead of your usual procrastination behavior, insert a productive routine. Take 3 deep breaths and identify one small next step. Use the 2-minute rule. Apply the Pomodoro technique. Practice self-compassion and gentle redirection. Design the reward. Your brain needs to experience benefit from the new behavior. Immediate rewards: checking items off a list, playing favorite music; progress rewards: visual progress tracking, sharing accomplishments; intrinsic rewards: sense of competence, reduced anxiety, self-respect. The 90-day transformation plan. Research suggests it takes approximately 66 days to form a new habit, but complex behavioral changes like overcoming procrastination often take longer. Here's a structured 90-day approach. Days 1 to 30, foundation building. Focus on one primary strategy. Choose your strongest from the previous article. Track your progress daily. Practice self-compassion when you slip up. Create environmental supports. Goal: build basic awareness and interrupt automatic patterns. Days 31 to 60, expansion and refinement. Add 1 to 2 additional strategies. Identify and address remaining obstacles. Refine your approach based on what's working. Start building accountability systems. Goal: develop a reliable system that works for your lifestyle. Days 61 to 90, integration and mastery. Focus on making behaviors automatic. Handle more complex or challenging situations. Help others with similar struggles. Teaching reinforces learning. Plan for long-term maintenance. Goal: transform identity from procrastinator to person who takes action. Creating your personal action plan. Step 1. Choose your core strategies. Select 2 to 3 strategies from the previous article that resonated most strongly. Consider your lifestyle, personality, and primary procrastination triggers. Step 2. Design your environment. Remove or minimize triggers for procrastination. Make productive behaviors easier. Create visual reminders of your goals. Establish a dedicated workspace. Step 3. Build your support system. Identify people who can provide accountability. Join communities of others working on similar goals. Consider working with a coach or therapist if needed. Create ways to track and celebrate progress. Step 4. Prepare for obstacles. Identify your highest risk situations. Create specific plans for handling setbacks. Develop self-compassion practices. Build in flexibility for life's inevitable disruptions. The identity shift. One of the most powerful aspects of lasting change is shifting your identity. Instead of thinking, "I am a procrastinator who is trying to change," begin thinking, "I am someone who takes action, and I'm still learning." Language changes that support identity shifts. I don't procrastinate. Instead of, I'm trying not to procrastinate. I take action on important things instead of, I should stop procrastinating. I'm learning to manage my time well instead of, I'm bad at time management. I handle difficult tasks systematically instead of, I avoid hard things. Handling setbacks and relapses. Setbacks are normal and expected. The difference between people who succeed long-term and those who don't isn't the absence of setbacks, it's how they respond to them. When you have a setback, 1. Acknowledge it quickly. Don't pretend it didn't happen or minimize it. 2. Avoid the shame spiral. One setback doesn't erase all progress. 3. Analyze what happened. What triggered the old behavior? 4. Adjust your approach. What can you learn from this experience? 5. Take immediate action. Do something small to get back on track. 6. Recommit. Reaffirm your commitment to change. The comeback formula: setback plus learning plus adjustment plus immediate action equals stronger progress. Building intrinsic motivation. External motivators, deadlines, pressure, rewards, can jumpstart change, but intrinsic motivation sustains it. Build intrinsic motivation by connecting to your values. Why does overcoming procrastination matter to you? How does productive action align with your deepest values? What becomes possible when you're not held back by procrastination? Focusing on growth. Celebrate progress, not just outcomes. View challenges as opportunities to strengthen your skills. Embrace the learning process. Cultivating autonomy. Choose your own goals and methods. Maintain flexibility in how you approach tasks. Take ownership of your change process. Advance strategies for long-term success. The pre-commitment strategy. Make future procrastination more difficult by scheduling important tasks during your peak energy times, using apps that block distracting websites, creating financial stakes, donate to a cause you dislike if you don't follow through, making public commitments. The systems approach. Instead of relying on motivation, create systems that make productive behavior automatic. Regular reviews of goals and progress, standardized routines for different types of tasks, checklists and templates for common activities, automated reminders and scheduling. The continuous improvement mindset. Regularly assess what's working and what isn't. Experiment with new strategies and approaches. Seek feedback from others. Stay curious about your own behavior patterns. Maintaining progress in different life phases. Your anti-procrastination strategies may need to evolve as your life changes. During high-stress periods, simplify your strategies to the most essential ones. Lower your standards temporarily to maintain momentum. Focus on stress management and self-care. Use support systems more actively. During major life transitions, expect temporary increases in procrastination. Rebuild routines gradually. Adapt strategies to new circumstances. Be patient with yourself during adjustment periods. During success and growth, avoid complacency by setting new challenges. Help others who are earlier in their journey. Continue learning and refining your approach. Celebrate your progress and transformation. Creating your legacy. As you overcome procrastination, you become a model for others. Consider how you can share your story and strategies with others. Mentor someone who struggles with similar issues. Create systems that help your family or team be more productive. Continue growing and challenging yourself in new areas. Your transformation commitment. Take a moment to write down your commitment to change. Include why overcoming procrastination matters to you, the specific strategies you'll start with, how you'll track your progress, what support you'll seek, how you'll handle setbacks. Final thoughts. From procrastinator to producer, you've embarked on a journey that goes far beyond simply getting things done. Overcoming procrastination is about becoming the person you want to be. Someone who takes action, follows through on commitments, and creates the life they envision. Remember that this transformation isn't about perfection. It's about progress, growth, and developing the skills to handle whatever challenges life presents. There will be setbacks, difficult days, and moments of doubt. That's not failure. That's part of the human experience. What matters is that you now have the knowledge, tools, and framework to continue moving forward. You understand the psychology behind procrastination. You've identified your personal patterns. You know the root causes that drive your behavior. And you have a comprehensive toolkit of strategies to create lasting change. Most importantly, you're no longer alone in this struggle. You're part of a community of people who understand that procrastination isn't a character flaw. It's a habit that can be changed with patience, understanding, and the right approach. Your journey from procrastinator to productive person starts now. Take the first small step, then another and another. Before you know it, you'll look back and realize that you've become exactly who you set out to be. Someone who takes action and creates the life they want. The time for waiting is over. Your productive life begins today.